What's up, everybody? And I'll give everyone a minute to join. And so I'll just make an announcement now. I've been very busy all day today recording the new Sanyama product, which is called the Heart Seal. And what is the Heart Seal is the translation, the English translation of Anahata Bandha. And Anahata is the heart chakra, and Bandha is a co-activation of muscles around a chakra. And so the heart chakra occurs right around T6, T7, that disc space. And what ends up pushing the sternum forward and up and gives a posterior tilt to the sternum is the co-activation of serratus anterior with the rhomboids that happen between the shoulder blades. And I clarify this in the product to give you lots of images and ways to isolate this. But this motion, I'll do it with my arms down, that motion is the heart bandha. And it's very, very effective and useful for pranayama, meditation, and what we're about to do, which is forearm balancing. Because the forearm balance creates an obligatory engagement of serratus, but not so much the rhomboids, so squeezing the shoulder blades together. And we're just going to get right to it. So the Sanyama product comes out October 1st, so stay tuned for that. I'll post a lot more about that. So let's start by warming up the wrists. And we'll just go briefly today, maybe about 15 minutes. Start to think about if you have any awareness of anatomy, and if you don't, then just consider that there are muscles that cross more than one joint. All the muscles are crossing at least one joint. That's why there's a muscle there. It's moving the joint around. So right now I have fingers face back, palms flat. Turn the palms over so you're on the back of the wrists. But most muscles are what they call multi-articular muscles, meaning they cross more than one joint space. And that's pretty easy to do because there's some, your hands, your feet, there's tons and tons of joints in there. Every bone that connects to another bone creates a joint. But so when we're looking at mobility of the shoulder, a lot of those muscles that cross the shoulder are crossing the elbow, and a lot of those muscles crossing the elbow are crossing the hands. And so opening up from the wrists, up the elbows, up to the shoulders is more holistic for something like a forearm balance. So bring the fingers face forward, palms flat, and do some tabletop planches. Planche is when you take the shoulders in front of the wrists like I'm doing now. The more you take the wrists behind the hips, the heavier your hands, or the heavier the weight on your hands. You want to keep the back of the forearm, the back of the forearms, back of the wrists engaged. This is a principle I want you to really take with you in all of your yoga poses. On the side of the joint that's closing, you actually want to engage the muscles on that side. It's usually not what we do. And last one, internally rotate the humerus. Come into your breath and really start to think about what would make this an accomplished practice. What would make you feel like you did well this practice? It might be you get a balance, it might be that you challenge yourself or learn something new, but just pointing your mind in the direction of where or what it is that you'd like to get from this. Great. Let's do some shoulder pumps. I want to make sure, let me move this camera a little bit. Yeah, cool. Take the arms overhead with locked elbows and take some shoulder pump motions. I like to sync this with my breath, but if you just want to let the breath flow as you lock the elbows, keep the hands shoulder width. If you have problems like the hands keep going wider, you can grab a yoga block or anything really and keep it between the hands as you pump the shoulders. Continue to turn and point the top of the sternum towards the ceiling and keep the ribs pulled in so they don't poke out. It's great for warming up the scapulas. So take the forearms down to the ground and prayer hands behind the neck. Drag the elbows as you pull the hips towards the ankles. Deep breaths, drop your tongue. Okay, come back up. Rest the block on your lap. Pinch it between your elbows. Open the palms and turn the palms wider than the block. So right now I have the block resting on my torso. And I want to see how wide can I make my wrists. Pinch the block just hard enough so it doesn't drop, but you don't have to squeeze it hard. Gently tuck the chin and glide the head back. And then maybe begin to lift the arms. Keep the palms spreading wide. Go ahead and drop the block. I'm going to do something known as baby duck. So I tuck the toes, feet together, and push back almost into a squat. It's kind of like a crow pose. But right where my hands are now, I drop to the forearms. And it'd be nice to have parallel forearms, but that's not necessary. The higher in my armpits I can get my knees, the better. If they go outside the armpits, it's more challenging. Even if I have to slide the knees all the way to the elbows, it's better to be behind the arm than on the outside. So go ahead and get as deep into the expression that you're comfortable with. The feet don't have to come off the ground, or if you'd like to play with one or maybe both, hips are higher, heels towards the butt, push out through the arms, gaze forward, and tuck the chin at the same time. Deep breaths. Bring it down. Take kneeling and shake out your arms. Pretty challenging. We will conclude today with the forearm balance, and it's pretty difficult to get a full body warm up and do a peak pose, a peak challenging pose like forearm balance in 15 minutes. But it can be done, and so just know it's not going to be as good as it possibly could be if you were fully warmed up in every area of your body and you could point your toes perfectly or as perfect as you can get it. So we understand it's not going to be perfect, you know? So take the fingers face out, palms flat, about mat width or a little bit wider than shoulders, and start to sway side to side. And really push through the scapula as you do this. So you should feel like you're almost doing like a push-up, but from the shoulder blade. Really relax the tongue and learn how to keep the neck long and separate the tension in the neck from the tension in the shoulders, from the tension in the hips. Good. So we'll do this exercise, this teres minor isolation again. If you have a second block, it's really useful to pinch between the legs, because we're going to come up to kneeling. This is almost like a Kapotasana variation. So it's really useful to train for scorpion if you want to get a scorpion on the forearms. We're not going to do that today, but again, rest the block down, pinch between the elbows. If you don't have a block, you can pretend a block is there. I've used coffee cans or tissue boxes before. Take the wrists wider than the elbows and then come up to the knees. You want to squeeze the knees and feet together, even if they don't come together. Lean a little bit back and tuck. It's a big tucking of the tailbone. So the sit bones pull towards the back of the knees. Wrists wider than the elbows and begin to lift, but then drop the shoulders. So don't let the shoulders shrug up. Pull down with the lats. Push forward with serratus anterior. Wider the wrists with teres minor, and then lift up and back. Keep the hollow in the lower belly. Squeeze the knees together. Push the tops of the feet into the ground. 5 more breaths. And exhale, come down. Good. So come down onto the belly. take the right arm, and this is different if you're a woman because you have breasts, so just, you know, don't make it hurt or anything, but I take the right arm across and then the left arm over top. So this is an intense deltoid stretch, and then I'll roll a little bit forward onto my arms and just drop the head. Take a few gentle breaths. Follow your breath and switch sides. So feel how this pulls your shoulder blades apart, and it elongates the rhomboids between the shoulder blades. Great, let's come backing up. So we're going to do a wall sit. Let me correct this camera right quick. I'm going to do one thing to really integrate the core, and then we'll do a it's actually not new, Angie, it's just from before your time. So about 2 years ago I was really into Matthew Sweeney's Ashtanga alternative sequences. Maybe one day we'll do his sequences. And so yeah, we'll do a little bit of core awareness, and then we'll do a couple of inversions and close it out. And if you have any questions on anything, go ahead, prepare your questions, or you can type them. So this is just a simple wall sit. I don't want to burn the thighs, but I want the back, especially the lower the lower back, flat on the wall. And the back of the head touches the wall. So then I arch and I hollow. But I emphasize the hollow, and I really want to awaken the lowermost abdomen, the lowermost rectus, below the navel, between the navel and the pubis. And then I want to find the glute maximus on my hollow, so it pulls my sit bones towards the back of my knee. And then I breathe, and I allow my spine to slide up and down the wall or move on the wall. I really want to find that lower abdomen. This is a movement to awaken the lower abdomen. You're not going to get fatigued from this unless you do it for a long, long time. You're not going to get a six-pack from this. I just want to wake it up down there. Really emphasize the hollow. Go all the way on the hollow. Excellent. Okay. So we don't have time to get into really strength builders because I don't want to frustrate you, and this is a short class. So what I'll do is I'll show 3 variations, and maybe you've seen these before, and you pick whichever one is, you know, at your level, that's flirting with your edge. And then I'll show a standing therapeutic pose to kind of, you know, recenter, come back, and then we'll have a seat and finish out the practice. So the 3 variations I'll give will be a wall tuck sit, which is more of a strengthener, but it won't really challenge you on the balance aspect. So if you already have the balance and you need to work on strength, you do this. Or if you're too frustrated doing the balance but you're strong, then do this, because it'll make you feel good to do something you're good at. The other will just be to climb the feet up the wall, which is kind of an intermediary. It requires less strength but a little bit more balance, but not quite full balance. And then the full balance will be to come off the wall. So I'll describe these as I talk, and we'll do them for about 60 seconds, and you follow along as you can. You come down when you need to, rest until we reconvene after this. So I'll go ahead and briefly demonstrate the 3 moves I just described. You could use a block, put it between the web space of your hands. I don't always, but I'll do it just to demonstrate. So I'm crouched close to the wall, and I walk the feet about 1.5 to 2 feet up the wall. From here I push the elbows down and away, and this is the forearm wall tuck sit. Requires some mobility in the shoulders and strength in the shoulders, but 0 balance. Alternatively, second option would be to walk the feet up. So now I'm almost in a forearm balance. And that hollow drill we just did on the wall, notice how my butt's poking out. I really want to tuck in here and play with how straight can I make my body. If this is easy for you, or you already know you have a balance,
Then scissor, but you really want to point the feet to find the back line of the legs. Find the hamstrings and pull the sit bones towards the heels. Push up and out. Engage the rhomboids by squeezing the scapula together. Maybe you drop the head, ease the breath, drop the tongue. Keep hollowing the lower abdomen. If at any time you want to return to an earlier variation, that's fine. Take a few more breaths if you're still in it.
Great. Have a kneeling position and take all 5 fingers touching together for Hakini Mudra. Good to integrate. Drop the tongue and just be in total contentment with what you just did. Wherever you got with it, however far, however deep, however good. As your heart rate returns to normal, let that be a journey. Let the journey of the heart rate returning to normal feed you thoughts, ideas, and inspiration as you reflect on what you just did. Or maybe you don't give a shit. Maybe you were just getting a workout in and now you're just letting your heart rate calm. That's cool too, you know? Just observe yourself and let this be an opportunity for you to enjoy all the sensations that you've just given yourself through effort. Good, so we'll do one final one, and this is all for the purpose of really bringing the humerus back into the socket. The forearm balance has a nasty way of dislocating shoulders, so we're going to really bring it back in. It's just like the first ones. You could do it kneeling or seated. I'm going to do it standing. I'm going to use 2 blocks. If you don't have 2 blocks, then you don't need to. But I put one between my legs. It doesn't matter on what setting. I'm not even really squeezing it that hard. It's just there to remind me. So I have it on the middle setting, and hug 1 block on your belly, and then bring it to the elbows. Wrists wider than the hands. You could go limp wrist or forearm balance hands. Wrists wider than the elbows as you lift, but then make sure the shoulders don't come up. Pull the shoulders down, back, and in. As you push the elbows forward, wrists wider, hollow the ribs, gently, gently, gently squeeze the block. Deep breaths. That was great. All right, we're gonna find seated. I'm gonna lower this tripod here. Find a comfortable seat. I'm probably gonna sit on a block. Cross the legs any way you want. We're going to do a couple of Sitali pranayama. Sitali is you make a taco tongue and you inhale through the tongue. I usually count to 12 on the inhale. You could let that be it and then just exhale, or I'm going to do a retention on the inhale. So I pull in through the tongue, retain, tuck the chin, look to the pelvic floor, 30-second retention, and then take a few normal breaths in between. I'll probably do 2 or 3. So go ahead and inhale. Fully exhale through the nose. Taco tongue, look at the nose tip as you inhale. Either exhale or retain as you look to the pelvic floor. Take a few normal breaths in between. And if you'd like to, and you know how to do Kechari Mudra, and I have a video on Kechari Mudra, I do Kechari during retentions in Sitali pranayama. So go ahead and inhale. Empty. Inhale through the taco tongue, gaze to the nose tip. Kumbhaka, retention. Continue to do one more on your own, or I'm going to embark on a gratitude, a meditation of gratitude, where for the next minute or so I'm going to think of as many things as I'm grateful for as possible in my life, or do another round of Sitali Pranayama, and then we'll reconvene and I'll answer any questions if you've typed any. The end of this very brief class. Namaste, and I'll go ahead and see if there were any that's new. Books on yoga philosophy that you would recommend, and yoga anatomy. Wow, so many. I mean, it depends on what your interest is. Yoga is not a single philosophy. There's so many schools of thought, and I mean, if you're asking me personally, like for how I think, then that's one thing. But I'm also into left-hand path yoga and so on. As far as yoga anatomy, there's many good references. You personally, well, the number one I think text for So the first yoga book I ever read was Yoga Makaranda, but that's really dense and difficult to read. I think the most inspiring yoga book is Autobiography of a Yogi by Yogananda, because it's very well written, but it's also got a lot of mysticism and like magic in it that is inspiring. You know, it's not so bland. As far as like real yoga philosophy is the Yoga Sutras, which is an ancient text, and there's lots of commentaries on the Yoga Sutras. And also I would recommend Hellbent. Hellbent is coming to mind. That's hot yoga, and the Bikram style is the only style that has the yoga competitions, but we all have a tendency to be slightly competitive in our yoga practice. If you're comparing yourself to other people or comparing yourself to yesterday, and so Hellbent has a really good take on that competitive aspect of it. As far as, and I mean, there's so many more. I would also super recommend Shadows on the Path. As far as, yeah, Shadows on the Path by something Asadi. I think it's a difficult name, and it's a short book. That's an easy one. That's a super easy book. For yoga anatomy, I mean, the book Yoga Anatomy by Leslie Kaminoff is pretty good. It's pretty good. I would say Yoga Therapy by Simon Borg Olivier is also that's really good. And he's got a lot of good, that's the best one. But it's really dry, and so it's difficult. And other than that, I would say Paul Grilly's Yoga Anatomy DVD. It's not a book, but that one alone, I could point to a lot of circumstances in my life, in my yoga practice and my teaching, that resource has really helped, especially in distinguishing compression from tension when you're bending joints. So those are my recommendations for that. Yeah, you're welcome. So I'm glad you guys liked it. What is today, Saturday? Every Saturday at 6 p.m. I'm doing live streams, and more over the next month I'm going to do more classes. I'm just going to live stream a bunch of classes because I want to teach more classes. So if you got any suggestions or recommendations, comment below about anything you'd like to learn. You guys basically know what I do. I have 450 videos on YouTube at this point, and feel free to share it on your Facebook or whatever, but you should market yourself more. Send me an email about how to do that. I don't know how to market myself. I just keep putting myself out there. So, all right, I'm going to go now. Namaste.